Let's be real. If you've been feeling like everything's getting harder, paying bills, keeping a job, putting food on the table, you're clearly not crazy. You're just paying attention. But here's the twist. Most of the damage hasn't even been fully revealed yet or hasn't even landed. We're only at the start of what could be a really painful economic unraveling. And I've been tracking the numbers quite extensively for quite some time now. And right now, there's 6 massive warning signs that are flashing all at once. And most people aren't even talking about it. And that, my friends, is something we're talking about. All right, so I want to take a minute, share some thoughts and reference to just some recent figures that just came out, especially the ones that came out today, and kind of compiled it all together and give you just a quick viewpoint as to what's really going on, regardless of what mainstream is telling us, but what Main Street is actually feeling. And of course, it's not looking pretty. And as always, if you guys value these types of short deep dives, definitely hit that thumbs up button. Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're keeping an eye on. Let me know what I might have forgotten to put on the list. And then more importantly, if you have any new, make sure to subscribe. Take this and share it so more people can get an idea of what's going on here. Because my goal is to educate, not to scare, and to keep people one step ahead, not 2 steps behind. But as always, the first and most important one is the fact that people have stopped believing that things will get better. See, this is one that hits really hard to me. Because recently, CBS News did a survey with YouGov, and the message was clear. People are losing faith in the system altogether. See, they asked Americans to describe the economy in just one word. So the top answers were struggling, uncertain, and unfair. And only 14% used the word fair. Just 15 said expanding. Twice as many people said things are getting worse as those who said they're improving. So we're not just talking about low approval ratings. We're talking about national pessimism backed by data now. And when the general public starts believing in the recovery, then what else do they have to look forward to? That's when consumer spending starts dropping and business confidence begin to tank and recession narratives really begin to spiral out of control. And that's only the first point I want to hit on. The second one is job creation can't even keep up with the population growth these days. So the U.S. needs to add at least 150,000 jobs every month just to keep up with the population growth. And last month, we added just 54,000 jobs according to the ADP figures that came out today. And so not just slower than expected, that's a flat out red flag if you ask me. Economists expected 75,000 jobs. Even that would have been weak. And the month before, we got 106,000. So this is a massive drop off just within that 30-day time frame. So this tells us just one thing. The job market is slowing down faster than anyone predicted. And when the jobs start stalling, everything else suffers. So you're going to have retail, you're going to have housing, you got the local economies. It all trickles down. And it's not looking pretty heading into the holiday season. The third thing is unemployment is quietly creeping up. But then again, mainstream media is not talking about it. So here's where things getting sneaky. So you won't see screaming headlines about it, but jobless claims just spiked. So last week alone, there was 237,000 people who filed for unemployment benefits. So that's 8,000 more than the previous week and higher than expected. Now that might sound catastrophic on its own, but these kinds of steady, quiet increases, they usually happen right before a big wave hits. And if hiring continues to slow down while more people get laid off, we're going to see the unemployment rate shift extremely fast and not in a good way. So therefore, there's going to be more pressure on the Federal Reserve to try to stay on top of their 2 policy mandate of employment and price stability, which we both know they've all failed. The next point is the fact that job openings have collapsed to what is considered pre-pandemic levels. And so this one really blew my mind because the number of open jobs in the U.S. has dropped to the lowest point in nearly 5 years. And we all know what happened 5 years ago. So according to the latest jobs openings and labor turnover survey, or JOLTS as it's referred to, we're down to 7.18 million job listings. So let me put that in perspective. This is the second lowest reading since the end of 2020 when the world was still recovering from the COVID lockdowns. Fewer job openings means fewer options for workers, lower wages, and more people stuck in jobs that they hate. And so that's a big reason why we're seeing more unemployment and more people juggling side hustles just to make rent. And then the fifth point I want to touch on is the fact that there are serial layoffs which are becoming the new norm. And so here's the part no one wants to talk about or really admit. See, layoffs aren't just happening, they're happening over and over again. A recent survey found that 78% of HR leaders in the US that companies are doing serial layoffs. So not one round of cuts, but multiple ongoing month after month layoffs. Take ConocoPhillips, for example, one of the biggest energy companies in the US. They just announced plans to cut 25% of their entire workforce. That's almost 3,000 jobs completely gone. So we're talking about a company that made billions in recent years. They're slashing like this. What does that mean for everyone else? And then the last point to really bring this home is the fact that manufacturing has been in decline for 6 straight months now. And so you talk about the backbone of the American economy, whether it's strong or weak, depending on where you're looking and who you're talking to. Manufacturing is and was all that we had in this country. And as I say, wherever the Motor City goes, there goes the rest of the world. And so keeping an eye on the big three here, I'm not seeing much hiring. I'm seeing a lot of decreased plant activity and furloughs as the Motor City tries to navigate between this EV push under the previous administration and the idea of bringing back jobs to this country. There doesn't seem to be much of a balance going on right now. And so according to the Institute for the Supply Management, and get this, some manufacturers are saying it's worse than during the Great Recession. And so they're blaming tariffs, supply chain messes, rising costs, you name it, but the result is the same: less production, fewer factory jobs, and lower exports. So when manufacturing dries up, it's a sign that we're not just dealing with a temporary dip, we're looking at a systemic decline altogether. And so the question is, where's all this heading? And now here's the scary part. All of this, these 6 flags I just named, they're not just early signs, because the ripple effects haven't even fully set in yet, but they will. So you're going to have corporate bankruptcies, which are going to spike. You're going to have store closures that are going to be on pace for an all-time high this year. Then you're going to have 1 in every 4 American homes where someone is skipping a meal just to keep the lights on. So let that sink in for a minute. This isn't abstract, it's real. And no, this didn't start back in 2021. But those 4 years accelerated the decline, poured fuel on a fire, and now we're living in what will be considered the fallout. And so I know these 6 things are pretty heavy on the surface, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. But here's what I want you to remember. You are not the system itself. The system was failing well before majority of people who's watching this actually grabbed a hold of this information. And yes, you don't have to go down with the system. So as I always say, make sure you stay informed, get prepared, however you define that for you and your household. And of course, stay grounded. And more importantly, look for ways to be a blessing to others, as well as adding value, because value is what keeps systems and economies going, whether it be on a national scale or the personal scale for you and your household. Because what's coming next might be a rough patch, but it's not the end. That's for sure. So once again, just taking a minute to share with you 6 things worth paying attention to in reference to the data and the fact that the mainstream pulse is telling us something way different than what the mainstream media will have us to believe. But then again, there's no point in telling you all of this information without also suggesting and recommending some possible strategies on how to diversify, be a person that adds value in the midst of uncertainty. And so as more people begin to ask questions, it's a great opportunity for you to present them with some answers. And of course, answers happen to be, when it comes to the financial side of things, to get your weight up. Gold and silver, put it aside, regardless of the volatility. They're hot one day, they're cold the next, no matter what. They're great stores of value for long-term wealth preservation. And then in the meantime, you have your speculative opportunities. Whatever it is that you are excited about, whether it be commodities, whether it be digital assets, whether it be collectibles, whether it be tradables, you name it. If you have a passion for it, then find a way to get involved with it. Because based on all this information here, employment will become scarce as you move forward. So everyone's going to be forced to be their own business. And the best way to do that is to get started today, not wait till tomorrow. And then last and most important, of course, is the ability to have faith in the midst of uncertainty. Because no matter what, we've gone through cycles before, we've gone through recessions, depressions, panics, you name it. God always remained true to his own. So make sure you strengthen up your faith, stay in your word, find ways to bear fruit, like sowing seeds, whether it be just being that light that others recognize in the midst of darkness, or sowing seeds with your words to the kingdom of God and the fact that the economy is doing quite well right now. But other than that, just taking a minute, here to see what you guys think. Hit that thumbs up. Drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, there's resources beneath this video here for you to take advantage of if you foresee it. Other than that, be blessed.